and with the support of the full board, decided that the board was going to use fund balance to balance its budget. That was 2 years ago. Then last year, the finance committee, and again in conjunction with the school board, asked me to put together what I thought would be a definition of what a quality education looks like in this school district, so that when the time came for us to go to our Chilton public, we could say, this is what we believe is the makeup of a quality education. If you support this, wonderful. If you don't, and we need to cut our budget, continually cut our budget, then you need to plan for and be prepared for less than quality in our schools. I provided you with that presentation last year, and I want to give you kind of a brief update of that presentation. You've heard the principals, Mr. Brightwell and some of the other presenters this evening allude to this presentation because it really focuses on goals that we set out for ourselves as a district in terms of what we need to do to achieve that level of quality. So this isn't the entire presentation from last year, but it gives you kind of a brief overview to kind of refresh your memory on where we're at today. So we start with what our mission statement is: preparing students to achieve their potential, inspiring them to be lifelong learners, and contributing members in a global society. This mission statement and our vision statement and our belief statement were written by community members back in 2007-8, and we have put them up here for us to serve as sort of guiding ships for us, if you will, as we move our district forward. I also started with our vision statement. We want to continue to be an innovative school district. We want to demonstrate continuous improvement through a challenging educational program, and we want to develop an interactive partnership. Talked about that earlier this evening. This is a pictorial graphic of our student success model. It identifies our 21st century learners in the middle, and surrounding that, all of the types of learning that students need to be involved in, and all of the forces then that come together swirling around that to make that happen. We also have a list of our belief statements. I think that these bear looking at. These were really developed by the school board. School board members, I think Mr. Colby and Mr. Lisway, you may remember we had a board development session where the board developed these statements in terms of what we believe in this school district. In the 2013 presentation, after I established beliefs, you may recall that I also established then what we are required to do as a public school system. I'm not going to go into all those details, but just again as a reminder, Wisconsin state statute indicates that we have to schedule at least 180 school days annually. We have to meet two requirements. We have to meet a day requirement, and we have to meet an hours requirement, which varies by grade level. Right now, I believe in the state legislature there is a bill moving forward that is looking at adjusting that 180-day requirement, where school districts, if they meet the hour requirement over the course of a year, would qualify. It doesn't necessarily have to happen in the scope of 180 school days. The thought is that that move may provide more flexibility in school districts developing more flexible schedules and perhaps developing year-round schedules, which, to be honest with you, we have had a discussion in our school district with our personnel about what a year-round school schedule might look like for the Chilton School District. We haven't taken it much further than that level of discussion, but I want you to know that it has been an interesting discussion with our staff. Before we could move forward with that, certainly we'd have to engage our community. But I think it is something that particularly this district could look at, given the facilities that we have, given the fact that we have totally air-conditioned facilities throughout. We don't have the reason to say that children couldn't come here because we don't have air conditioning, which a lot of schools, that's a serious consideration. So, for what it's worth, that is state statute. We also talked about graduation requirements, again focusing on what is required of us. There's been some change to this As you know, you as a board, 2 years ago, required a third credit of math. That third credit will not take place until the class of 2016 graduates. So Jake, you probably have taken 3 credits of math, but you're only required by law, by the state, and by the district to take 3. However, the state has upped the graduation requirements for both math and science. The school district has the jump ahead on math, but science came into play this year. So science graduation requirements will increase to 3 for the class of 2017, which is this year's incoming freshmen. Questions on that?
Yeah, the state requirement for math, is that similar to ours in the level of math that is needed?
Say the question again.
Is the state requirement for math in 2017 similar? Don't we have a requirement of the level of math that's achieved? Is theirs at a certain?
Well, we adopted the Common Core, and so when we unpacked the standards, and this was before I came, we saw the fit of algebra, geometry, and advanced algebra. Now, when the presentation came to you in the fall of what was my first year? 13, right?
2 years now.
Yeah, thanks. When the presentation came to you, what was moved by the board was a movement to the third credit, not in determining what those credits were. So we feel that the college and career readiness track for a lot of our students is the algebra, geometry, and advanced algebra. However, we do have some things set up with our pre-algebra and our principles of engineering to satisfy that third credit requirement without the traditional track.
So there's some flexibility there for students.
Ready?
In addition to what you saw, I also went into all the requirements by the state in all the content areas. I'm not going to go into that this evening, but that is in last year's presentation. But in order for us to develop quality education, first and foremost, has to be developed by a highly competent and well-trained staff at every level of your organization. I don't know that anyone would dispute that. Our teachers are the front line of our organization. They are the ones that deliver the product. And this is in direct alignment with the board belief statement that we believe teacher effectiveness and expertise has a significant impact on student learning. So we are in alignment there. We established a district-wide achievement goal. You might recall previous to this, we had an achievement goal where we wanted 100% of our students to reach 80% on the reading portion of the math assessment. Then the state came out with state report cards. So we wanted our goal to be more user-friendly, if you will, to the general public. So we changed our goal to state that all schools within the school district of Chilton will exceed expectations on the state report card. Last year, as you are aware, I reported out to you when the information came out, the 2012-13 school year, all of our schools currently meet expectations, and we are in the very high range of meeting expectations. Chilton Elementary scored at 69.1, and the exceeds expectations begins at 73. Chilton Middle School scored at 71.9, meeting expectations, missing that 73 benchmark. And Chilton High School scored at 71.6. So all of our schools are in the very high range of meeting expectations. Our goal is that all of our schools will exceed expectations. So when this information comes out again from the state, I don't know if it'll be this spring or if it'll be this fall. And quite frankly, there's discussion in the legislature about changing this rubric again, moving away from this expectation language to giving schools an A, B, C, D, and F scoring. So this is in flux. I don't know if this will stay or if this will change. But right now, this is what we have. And this is our goal. So, how did that translate for our 3 schools? The goal at Chilton High School is that we want every student to be a high school graduate. I didn't share it with you in the good news report today, but I will tell you that not that many years ago, you expelled a student at Chilton High School whose family had never yet graduated a student from high school. That student was offered an opportunity to attend the Quest program at Fox Valley Tech. Student attended for a while. It didn't really work out. Student dropped out. Student decided to come back, and we allowed that. Student has successfully completed not only the Quest program, but also the additional requirements required to graduate as a graduate of Chilton High School. We received that information from Renee Bostel today. That student is now looking into FAFSA loans and is looking into continuing their education at Fox Valley Tech, and what does it take to enroll in the program. We have saved that student, and that is a tremendous goal. So we are making great progress, student by student, in this graduation goal. We have a 93 attendance rate goal for students at Chilton High School, with less than 5% of them being habitual truants. We want 60% of Chilton High School students to participate in extracurricular activities. The current benchmark is 52. We want all Chilton High School students to be at grade level or above in reading and math achievement. And so when you saw the presentations this evening about the 50th percentile on the math assessment, 50th percentile is grade level on math for reading and math. And we want half of all students graduating with either AP coursework, articulated transcripted credit, apprenticeship, or industry certification. The current benchmark is 28%. We are hoping to grow that. And if you read the article that I put in the local papers for the spring edition, beginning edition of the newsletter, we really hit that hard. Again, blurring the lines and getting our kids college and career ready while they're still in high school. And this all ties into course options. You can see all of this coming together. Because these goals were put together and shared with you last February, schools have not had an entire year to track their progress. So this summer or spring, when we present to you their final data on their building goals, they will be expected to report out on these goals as well. Next slide. Again, every student to graduate. We want every student on track to graduate, erasing the lines between high school and post-secondary. We want to increase our AP courses, 1 or 2 AP courses in each of the 4 core academic departments. I believe we have met and exceeded that at this point. Am I correct?
All except for math.
We had to keep going.
Yeah. Work in progress.
Job shadowing opportunities have
Okay.
expanded. You've more apprenticeships. We have not made great gains in certification attainment, but we can. That's an area that I think that we need to continue to move forward in. We want to provide a well-developed and balanced extracurricular program that meets the diverse interests and talents of all students. Why do we want to do this? We think it develops leadership, teamwork, volunteerism, and it helps to develop their academic and athletic talents. All of these things come together. All of these goals, I think, tie together in promoting and providing a quality education to the children, to the students in this community. Going on to middle school, they also have an attendance rate of 93%, 5% or less truant. If students are not here, we cannot educate them. We want, you heard the team tonight discuss 86% of them involved in extracurricular. They're squeezing for that extra percent. When you get into these higher levels, a percent is a lot. You know, it means a lot in terms of increased participation. And again, we want all of our students to be reading at or above grade level. Elementary attendance rate and students reading at or above grade level in reading and math. So, those are the goals. Once again, you will hear a report out on those goals from the various teams this spring. Now, how do we finance this for the next year, looking ahead to the 2014-15 school year? Those of you that are accustomed to looking at this spreadsheet, this is the Baird financial forecast analysis that Mrs. Lau puts together each and every year. The first year of this forecast analysis is much more accurate than any of the succeeding years because there are a lot of assumptions that go into this. And here we are in February trying to make decisions on a budget that you will approve in October. So lots of things, a lot of moving pieces yet to happen. But what I focus on is that line that says necessary cuts to balance. And you will notice for the 14-15 year, the amount needed to balance the budget at this time based on these projections and these assumptions is $614,766. That is a large chunk of change. Look to the right, ladies and gentlemen. This picture does not get better. In the 15-16 year, the amount that will be required to balance our budget will be $846,485. That's an even larger chunk of change. I want to share with you how we are going to get at that $600,000 deficit for the 14-15 year. We can move to the next slide. In conversations with, and I apologize if this is rather small, I don't know if you can enlarge that at all, Mr. Brightwell. In conversations that we have had early on with the Finance Committee this year, Mrs. Lau and I have recommended that we underfund the 41 fund. The 41 fund is your capital improvements fund that was established not too many years ago by the board to help with capital expenditures that you might need to do to your buildings. Just for a point of reference, Mrs. Lau has indicated that right now that fund has approximately $287,000 in it. So it is not without funding. By the end of this school year, she projects that we will add another $100,000 to that account. So at the end of the 13-14 school year, there'll be close to $400,000 in that account. We have been funding that account to the amount of $250,000 annually. But you also heard a presentation from Mr. Cuff not that long ago about the need for a new roof on the middle school, and subsequently following that roofing project, a need for a new roof on the elementary school. The combined roofing projects, and I asked Mr. Cuff to kind of update me. The middle school roof, the cost to replace the 1991 roof on the middle school is $726,800, approximately. As I'm giving you numbers tonight, please remember, we're talking big rocks here, but we're getting you in the ballpark of what you need to know in order for us to make decisions going forward. The estimated cost to replace the 1996 elementary roof is $875,000. A total for both roofs is $1,598,800, so about $1.5 million in today's costs. However, Mr. Cuff indicates that the 1996 elementary roof is in pretty good shape at this time, and short of a catastrophic event, should last for a minimum of 5 to 7 years, with the possibility of longer. You know how our maintenance staff keeps good care of our facilities. So the more immediate concern is the middle school roof at a cost of about $727,000. You need to kind of shrink that back down so the board can see the numbers. I told you that we've been funding the 41 fund at a cost of $250,000 a year. Mr. Cuff puts together annually, as he has shared with you, a 5-year plan for facilities and maintenance. Because of these impending roofing charges, he has increased the amount for the 41 fund to about $474,000 as an annual contribution from Fund 10 into Fund 41. I am recommending that we reduce the 41 fund levy to $374,000, which essentially leaves $100,000 in there that we would put in the 14-15 school year. Yes, I want to make sure I have my school years correct. I hope you're following me. So, with that, moving forward, $614,000 then, and not reducing the 41 fund levy, now we're at $240,000. But there are items in the 41 fund that are ongoing maintenance items that the district uses that fund for to keep up our facilities, like plowing and salting and those kinds of activities. So Mrs. Lau took those things out of the 41 fund, put it back into the Fund 10, and that's why you see $152,850. Which brings the running total now back to up to $393,000. So now we're at approximately $400,000. So now let's look at the reductions. We have some staffing changes coming forward. You approved some retirements tonight. Middle school math position. We believe that the difference between an experienced, long-standing teacher in the district and hiring a new teacher coming in may get us a cost savings of around $29,000. For a middle school art teacher, may realize a savings of around $21,000. Again, these are estimates. These are best guesstimates. We have an elementary position. Mrs. Colby is retiring. And we believe that we will not need to replace that position because we have a relatively small third grade class of about 66 students. And we can move those 66 students into 3 sections of 4th grade next year at 22 each, which is still appropriate class size level. But this is only a reduction that we can take for the 14-15 school year. Because of the numbers that we know that are coming up, we will need to add that FTE back for the 15-16 school year. So I promised Mrs. Schuster and the elementary staff that I would make that clear to the board. That is not an ongoing cost reduction. We need to add additional nursing pay. We have more medically fragile students coming in at the elementary level next year into our 4K programs. And we have already an increasing number of diabetic students that need monitoring during the school day, particularly as they snack and have lunch. So we're adding another $15,000 into the budget for increasing that position. We will have a reduction of a special education teacher to the amount of $21,000. You had a stipend of $5,863 that was paid for an assistant principal at the high school. That is no longer there. So these total staffing changes, which we discussed in more detail and more specifically in closed session, came to a total of $146,750 some dollars, which now brings our running total down to $246,000. In conversations with the Finance Committee, we are recommending that the board begin to charge in its health insurance a spousal surcharge to those members of our staff who have spouses that have insurance at their own place of employment, but choose to take our insurance in the school district. If they wish to remain in on our insurance, they would be charged a $50 per month fee to remain in our program. If they choose not, then they have the option to seek their insurance at their own place of employment. This would not be for those spouses who do not have other insurance, that don't have the availability of other insurance options to them through their employment. It is projected, again, large rocks, that could realize a savings of $45,000. We are also recommending that we look at different options to provide our staff with insurance for the upcoming school year. This would not be able to take effect until January. We right now have one insurance program that all staff members participate in. in order for us to control our insurance costs, we need to start providing options for our staff in terms of the kinds of insurance packages they wish to take that meet the needs of their family. So we are suggesting a very high deductible plan that would be entirely covered by the board, and then 2 subsequent plans that people could choose from with higher levels of employee contribution. Moving forward, the technology portion of our budget. We have always, in the last several years, we had the technology grants program, which you may or may not have been aware of, where staff members could apply to purchase technology equipment for their classrooms. I think it was a great program. Sue, you were in charge of that to a very large extent, being on the technology committee. But we believe that the funds were not necessarily used to provide cutting-edge technology that we had hoped would be tried in the district. I think to some extent it was, but now it's being used more to purchase document cameras and things that, all very good things, and all being put to an extremely good purpose in the classroom. But we think that this is a cost that we can do without at this time. I'm also recommending another $50,000 cut to the technology budget. This budget, of all the budgets in the last 5 to 7 years, has really been left untouched. And as much as it pains me to have to do that, Mr. Enders assures me that he will be able to move forward with our immediate needs in technology with that cut. Mrs. Lau indicates that we will be having an OPEB decrease to the amount of $17,000, nearly $18,000, because we no longer are accruing sick days toward retirement benefit. That was a change that the board made about a year ago. We have had a number of utility initiatives in the school district that we believe will provide cost savings to the district. Again, guesstimate at the amount of $83,000. I am recommending that we cut the staff development budget to the amount of $40,000. We need to add back into the budget $32,386. If you recall, last year when we wanted to bring on the PSLO officer, the legislature capped Fund 80 so that we could not add any more cost to that fund. There was some room yet in Fund 80 this year, so that part of the officer's costs have been charged to Fund 80, but now we're capped out there. We have to bring that amount back to Fund 10. I'm recommending that we hire an instructional coach for the 2014-15 school year. This is a position that I am strongly in support of, and I believe that we need to continue to promote student achievement and to provide the support to classroom teachers that they will need in order to make that happen. That cost is $77,500. And then I'm recommending a 10% cut to district supply budget. This has been done in the past. We've weathered the storm and then have opened that up again in subsequent years. I'm looking that we also, in order to make this budget balance, cut that budget as well. We have changing needs, and you see at the very bottom, desired future staff additions. We need to add more technology and business education in our school district at lower levels. We need to be able to provide students throughout our elementary and our middle school informed and quality education in this area. Ms. Salceder and Mrs. Main have been working on a comprehensive K-8 curriculum, which we have not had in the past, so that we have something that's very sequential and seamless, but we don't have enough people to deliver the instruction, and our classroom teachers, quite frankly, do not always have the expertise needed to deliver this curriculum. An example would be particularly at the elementary level in keyboarding. We use a number of programs right now to help students in their programming or in their keyboarding skills. It is somewhat effective, but it's not very effective. In my conversation with a 7th grade teacher today, she indicated when it takes a student 20 minutes or more to type one page because their keyboarding skills are not to a level where they can move. You talk about productivity with the use of technology. We have an issue. And our students are going to be at a disadvantage as we as a state move forward with more and more testing done through the use of technology. Students will not be able to keep up. They're going to need to be able to know how to navigate through technology, moving through different screens. This is a future need. We need another teacher to teach history at the high school level, another social studies teacher. We heard the middle school teachers talk about the need for interventionists. We believe we need 1.5 positions in order to provide tier 3 intervention at the middle school level. And at the elementary and the middle school level, we need an additional 0.4 of a music teacher because we have classrooms that are doubled in order to work with the schedule. So 50 children in an elementary music classroom for 20 minutes of instruction is pretty challenging. And we don't believe that that provides the quality that we would like to see happen in our schools. So this is a very broad brush plan. It meets the $600,000, again, big rock deficit. A large part of that is the additional cost that we are funding the 41 fund for the roof. You've heard me talk to you briefly about using Act 32. Mr. Bailey, you went to a session at WASB on that act, to levy, in addition to your current levy for that project. You have the ability to do that if it qualifies under Act 32. We have begun the initial discussions in the district with outside personnel on that roof, and we believe that it will qualify, but we don't know that for certain at this point. So once, if the board makes that decision that you're going to levy for that roof over the course of 15 years or 20 years, you can reduce the amount that you're putting in the 41 fund. Again, our original contribution on an annual basis to the Fund 41 was $250,000. That's jumped to nearly $475,000 now. But again, we cannot change that amount because a decision hasn't been made yet in relation to that roof. This budget plan under levies or under funds, Fund 41, that's not a good fiscal policy. This is how school boards and school districts get themselves in trouble if they continue along this vein long term. As a district, we are sitting in a good position both in terms of our facilities and in terms of our technology because we have kept up throughout the years. We've had a referendum that built these beautiful facilities. A lot of districts don't have the luxury, I know we pay for that luxury, that we have now. Over the course of many years, they've let their facilities go, they've left their infrastructure go, and now they're hurting. We've not done that, but this is how this starts. So I'm not happy to bring this recommendation to you. I know that it's not sound to do this from a fiscal standpoint long term, just as it is not sound for you to continue to use your fund balance. But we are running, quite frankly, to the end of our rope. If you go to the next slide, I want to share with the board and with the community that since the 2007-8 school year, which is the year I came as superintendent, the following steps have been taken to contain costs and utilize our financial resources responsibly. We have cut approximately $1.5 million of sustained reductions from our district operating budget. This included a wage freeze by all district employees in the 2012-13 school year. An additional wage freeze had occurred previously by administration and maintenance and housekeeping staff in 2010 and 11. Staff members, as a result of Act 10, have increased their contributions toward the cost of health and retirement benefits. We've had reductions in administration, teaching, and support staff positions, and we've had reductions in transportation routes and services provided to our families and our students. The board has utilized fund balance for the last 2 consecutive years, bringing your current fund balance within the board policy limits of 20 to 25%. I believe you're around 23% at this point. So there is some money there, but you want to be careful that, again, that's not sound fiscal action to take to continue to chip away at your fund balance. We're currently working to restructure health benefits that include higher deductibles, and I have information for you that shares with you, and we shared this with the Finance Committee, what deductible costs are for employees in the CISA 7 area, which is a comparable area for our school district. And I have copies. I ran about 20 copies or so. I wasn't sure how many people we would have from the community, so if anyone would like to take a look at that. Periodically, CISA 7 does do surveys of this nature. We did not request this survey. They do this on a regular basis. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but you can see that our deductibles are in the 400 and 800 range, and many districts are far exceeding that in the deductible plans that they're offering to their staff members. So we believe that it is time that we move in that direction as well, but at the same time, it's time to provide more employee choice by giving different options based on the needs of families in our school district. We are also going to look at a potential restructure of Chilton High School scheduling. You know that we've been in the block schedule for many years now. We have skinnied music classes and other classes to go behind the music classes, skinnying them down to 45 minutes. But there's been some discussion about providing a modified block schedule at Chilton High School, where some classes, for example, science classes that can benefit from that 90-minute period would remain at a 90-minute period, and others would go to a 45-minute period. So Mr. Brightlow has been assigned the task of taking a look at the registration numbers that he received this January, and how might that play out at Chilton High School if we were to implement it. We can't implement it for 14-15 because our students have already signed up for their courses. But using the data, and if we were to, what might that look like? Could we see greater cost savings in the utilization of our personnel? Or can we use our personnel differently? You saw the list of things that we need. If we structure differently, can we meet those needs with current personnel or not? We're running out of options, however. You saw the $800,000 figure in the 15-16 school year. I don't know where we will get that money to continue cutting. We cannot continue to offer a quality education in the school district and at the same time continue to diminish our resources and continue to cut. I believe it is time for the board to think about putting forth to the community what they want us to do. When I put the quality initiative together for you last year, the thought was that you need to present this to your community and say, what do you want? If this is what you want, we will continue to move forward, but we need additional funding. If this is not what you want, then be prepared for less than a quality education and be prepared for continued cuts. We have gained incredible momentum in the district. In moving forward, a lot of these goals, you heard a lot of what the different teams spoke about tonight. We are really, I believe, moving forward in a very positive direction. There's a lot of work to do, and clearly lots more that we can do to improve ourselves as a school district. But we are moving forward, and I'm very proud of those efforts, and I believe that you should be too. But I believe it's time for us to begin thinking about what that 15-16 school year is going to look like. So rather than wait, I believe it's better to have this discussion sooner rather than later. I'm going to bring forward to you next fall, probably in October, how we will get at that $800,000 if we have to do it through cuts. It's time that both you and the community see what that looks like. Again, sooner rather than later. I don't want to have that conversation with you in February, because if you decide as a board that it is time to move to referendum, you know that there's a process involved in passing your resolutions and getting on an agenda for a vote. I'm concerned about doing this early in the school year because it will involve program and staff cuts. It just will. I don't know what else. I have no other levers to push. So, again, 2 years ago when the board said, this process of continually cutting is very demoralizing to our staff, I am concerned about the demoralizing effect this may have in presenting this information that early in the school year. But I also know that given the decisions that you need to make, we need to do that sooner rather than later. I also think it's time for the community to understand the implications of continued cutting on the programs that we have in the school district. And I don't think that, I don't take this responsibility lightly, and I don't want this to be a chicken game. That, we'll put this out there, but we really won't do it. And it has come to the point, as you can see, progressively, we don't have a lot of options left if we want to continue the forward progression that we've been making these last several years. So, that is my report, and I'm open to any questions, comments that you might have.
I'll just make a comment from a finance committee perspective. The rest of the board members and anybody else that's here, we've challenged Dr. Martin to look at things, and Mr. Bartle now too, that we're not maybe on the radar, if you will, at the modified block. Anything else that can frankly take our capacity, if you would think of this as being a factory of sorts, how do we take all the great assets that we've got, which are our people, our talent, and our resources, and the building and everything, how can we use them to the best of our ability if we would start kind of fresh? So, you see the things that are looking up there for next year, the year after for our staff, you can't just keep adding people. So how do we take people like that, or those dollars that are spent on them, and use them in a better way? So, but at that point, whenever that point is done, that's all we have. So at that point, then we can look at the okay, we've pulled every lever, we've changed as much as we can change, the cuts are done. So now it is, do you want apples? Do you want a red apple or a green apple? $1 or 75 cents, it's going to be what it's going to be. But there's a couple things left I think we can bring to the community to just say, we've tried everything, we've done everything, we've taken and squeezed everything out. And I think that's what Dr. Lund is trying to get to is, because Mr. Brickell and I, we can't come up with any more answers. It's what it is. So at this point then, we're going to be, if you will, stuck with respect to how do we fund it.
One other word of caution, as you bring a budget with projected cuts in October of next year, as you're aware, the projections, the budget we saw in October of this year was much different than what we saw last week. There was no discussion of all these cuts that we had today. So the budgets, unfortunately, are a moving target with a lot of variables that can have a great effect on the outcome. So just that word of caution as we look at things next October.
Right, absolutely.
I understand the time frame, and if you look at the proposed budget for next year, we actually have an increase in our fund balance as a percentage of our expenditures. So again, as we were trying to whittle that away, we actually went up, and will go up next year. So, fiscal responsibility.
It's a moving target at all times, and again, that's why I say we're talking big rocks, a lot of assumptions, but we need to provide you with as much information as we have to the best of our ability as soon as possible so that you can make informed decisions.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Terry, there's nowhere else to go. I mean, we turned every rock. So, what's left? Do we want to keep the reputation we have as children for having a superior education here, or do we want to start letting it fall by the wayside? So I guess at some point in time, we will have to put that out to the community.
If you look at the opportunities that are becoming available, Mr. Bratler talked about course options, and will that bring increased revenue to the district? We talked about Cascade. By raising the quality that you're providing, you're also attracting the potential for more revenue to come to you as a district. It will not take long for that quality to slip and that potential revenue, as well as the net gain that you see in open enrollment, to be affected by loss of quality. Increase in class size, loss of quality in terms of extracurricular offerings. It's one of the hallmarks of this school district, is that not only do we offer a fine academic program, but you also try to offer as well-rounded of an extracurricular program as possible, because we believe that all of these things come together to provide what we really think students need in order to grow and mature and be ready to leave us and take their next position and place in society. So it won't take long for a drop in that quality to affect more revenue in terms of loss of students and loss of interest.
Question I do have though is, with that, and the other aspects that we look at, okay, with higher quality, okay, what is our max that we can absorb as far as into the school district and the finance that we do?
You have a lot of capacity at Chilton High School in terms of seats available. You know,
So do we know what that is?
Yes, I think that you approve that when you approve the open enrollment. Remember, I just
Yeah.
brought to you a number of seats available. Our capacity is more limited at the elementary because if we have 4 classes at each level, which we have been trying to work at and maintain, other than the cut that I'm suggesting for next year, not a lot of additional room there, and still keeping your class sizes low. There's greater capacity at the middle school level, and there's even more capacity at the high school. The interesting thing is the demographics that we're dealing with in our community. You know that we have a declining enrollment. Last year we went up a little bit. This year we went down about 16 students. As we look to one of our feeder schools, which is Chilton Catholic, which feeds into our middle school, their numbers are low as well. There's a bump of a high class, I think, coming in the next year or two, but after that it drops off quite significantly. So the competition element that is being introduced into public education is ever more important in terms of keeping the quality high, to bring people to your programs either virtually, online, or through course options or other opportunities, open enrollment.
I was just looking at the offset of that, you know, what would be the offset for us in that part? That's what's happening.
I don't know what that break point is in terms of when have we absorbed so much that we're taking on additional costs. I couldn't answer that for you tonight, but I can tell you that particularly at your middle school and your high school, you have a lot of capacity to grow. Mr. Brylam, anything from your perspective? Anything I've missed? Anything you would add?